Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah, okay. We are from group 12. We will bring a presentation of material about testing oral ability. Before we start the material, it's good for us to introduce ourselves. My name is Bagas Arya Pratama and my friends.
My name is Fauzan Akbar Mubarok.
My name is Reza Maulana.
Okay, so let's start for the first thing about testing oral ability. Fauzan, please.
Okay. Testing oral ability. In this chapter, the objective of teaching is spoken language. The development of this ability to interact successfully in the language, and that is involve comprehension as well as production. It is also assumed that at the earliest stage of learning, formal testing of this ability will not be called for. Informal observation providing any diagnostic for information that is needed. And the basic problem in this testing is essentially the same as for testing writing. Um, we want to set tasks that from a representative sample of the population of oral tasks that we expect candidates to be able to perform. And next one is setting the task, uh, specifying all appropriate tasks. We can again make use of the framework introduced in chapter 7. Yeah. There are operation, type of text, addresses, and topics. And the operation is to take a part in oral interaction, which may involve the following language function. Uh, First, expressing. Expressing is like thanks, requirements, opinions, comment, attitude, confirmation, apologize, want or need, information, complaints, reasons, justifications. And the second one is narrating. Narrating is like sequence of events. Third one is eliciting. Eliciting is information, direction, service, clarification, help, permission, and all are about. And fourth, directing. Directing is like ordering, instructing, persuading, advising, warning. And the last one is reporting. Reporting is like description, comment, and decision. The next, the next framework is text type. Text type is dialogue and multi-participant interaction, normally of face-to-face nature, but telephone conversation not excluded. And the next framework is addresses and topics. Not specify except as under topic for writing. Okay, criteria levels of performance. There are several criteria levels of performance. The first one is accuracy. Accuracy is pronunciation obviously influenced by L1, though clearly intelligible. Grammatical or lexical accuracy is generally high, though some errors which do not destroy communication are acceptable. The second one is appropriacy. Appropriacy is use of language generally appropriate to function. The overall intention of the speaker is always clear. Third one, range. A fair range of language is available to the candidate. Is able to express himself without overly having to search for word. The next one is flexibility. Flexibility is able to take the initiative in conversation and to adapt to new topics or change of direction, though neither of these may be consistently manifested. Next one is size. Most contribution may be short, but some evidence of ability to produce more complex utterance and to develop this into discourse should be manifested. Another approach to the specification of skills is to combine the element of content with an indication of criteria, level of ability. The rating scales against which candidates' performance our judge provide the specification. Example of these are the ACTFL with guidelines and the interagency language roundtable or ILR. Proficiency ratings, which were in fact used in the development of the ACTFL with guidelines. Thus, the ACTFL description of intermediate mid ability. Intermediate. The intermediate level is characterized by the speaker ability to the number one is create with the language by combining and recombining learned elements, though primarily in a reactive mode. Second one is initiate, minimally sustain and close in a simple way basic communicative task. And the third one is ask and answer question. Intermediate, mid, able to handle successfully a variety of uncomplicated basic and communicative tasks and social situations. Can talk simply about self and family members, and can ask and answer questions and participate in simple conversations on topics beyond the most immediate needs. For example, personal history and leisure time activities. It will be seen that the SCTFL and ILR scales are less specific about content. In the case of ILR interviews, some indication of potential content is to be obtained from of the elicitation procedures used by their interviews. Whatever approach is adopted, the important thing is for the tester to be as clear as possible at the outset. Before the test is written about the nature of the ability that is to measure, to be measured. The format listed here are three general format with brief comments on them. First one is interview. The most obvious format for the testing of oral interaction is the interview in traditional form. However, it has at least one potentially serious drawback. Second one is interaction with peers. Two or more candidates may be asked to discuss three topics, make plans, and so on. The third one is response to tape recordings. Uniformity of elicitation procedures can be achieved through presenting all candidates only with the same audio or video tape recorded stimulation. Uh, Bagas, please continue.
Okay, we move to obtaining a sample that properly represents each candidate's ability and which can be reliably judged. This section begins with general advice and then goes on to suggest techniques for different formats. Next. Next slide. Okay. Next slide. Yep. Advice on planning and conducting oral tests. First, make the oral test as long as is feasible. It is unlikely that much reliable information can be obtained in less than about 15 minutes, while 30 minutes can probably provide all the information necessary for most purposes. The second, include as wide a sample of specific content as is possible in the time available. Select what you regard as a representative sample of the specific content and then plan how you will elicit that necessary behavior. The third, plan the test carefully. While one of the advantages of individual oral planning in the way each procedures can be adapted in response to a candidate's performance, the tester should be nevertheless have some pattern to follow. Fourth, give the candidate as many fresh stars as possible. This means a number of things. First, if possible and if appropriate, more than one format should be used. Secondly, again, if possible, it is desirable for candidates to interact with more than one tester. Thirdly, within a format, there should be as many separate items as possible. Fifth, next slide, Jan. Sorry. Yeah. Select interviewers carefully and train them. Successful interviewing is by no means easy, and not everyone has great aptitude for it. Interviewers need to be sympathetic and flexible characters with a good command of the language themselves. But even the most apt need training. Six, use a good second tester for interviews. Sorry, because of the difficulty of conducting an interview and of keeping track of the candidate's performance, it is very helpful to have a second tester present. This person can not only give more attention to how the candidate is performing, but also elicit performance, which they think is necessary in order to come to audible judgment. 7. Set only tasks and topics that would be expected to cause candidates no difficulty in their own language. Carry out the interviews quite with good acoustic. 9. Put candidate at their case. Individual oral tests always be particularly stressful for candidates. It is important to put them at their ease by being pleasant and reassuring throughout. So 10 is collect enough relevant information. If the purpose of the test is to determine whether a candidate can perform at a certain predetermined level, then after an initial easy introduction, the test should be carried at the level. And then last 11, do not talk too much. There is an unfortunate tendency for interviewers to talk too much, not giving enough talking time to candidates. Avoid the temptation to make lengthy or repeated explanations for something that the candidate has misunderstood. Okay, next slide. We can move elicitation technique. Elicitation technique. The appropriateness of each technique will depend upon the specification of the test. Most of them can be fitted easily within an interview framework. Next slide. Okay, first is question and request for information. Yes or no questions should generally be avoided. Various functions of the kind listed in the RSA specification above can be elicited through requests of the kind. Can you explain to me how or why? And can you tell me what you think of? The second is pictures. Single pictures are particularly useful for eliciting descriptions. Series of pictures or video sequence form a natural basis for narration. The series of pictures on page 84, for example. The third is role play. Candidates can be asked to assume a role in a particular situation. This allows the ready elicitation of other language functions. There can be a series of brief items such as a friend invites you to a party on an evening when you want to stay at home and watch the last episode of television serial. Thank the friend, played by tester and reviews politely. And then next is wait. Mm, interpreting. Interpreting. It is not intended that candidates should be able to act as interpreters unless that is specified. However, simple interpreting text can test both production and comprehension in a controlled way. One of the testers acts as a monolingual speaker of the candidate's native language. The other as monolingual speaker of the language being tested. Situation of following kind can be set up. The native language speaker wants to invite a foreign visitor to his or her home for a meal. The candidate has to convey the invitation act, and act as an interpreter for the subsequent exchange. And then next slide, please. Okay, discussion. Discussion between candidates can be a valuable source of information. This may be discussion of a topic in order to come to a decision. This is an example from the RSA 1984. There is too much sport on television, or your school has a substantial budget to spend on improving facilities. The following have been suggested as possible pur- purchase for the school. First, video equipment. Second, a swimming pool, indoor or outdoor, but how much would discuss. Third, a minibus. Four, computer equipment. Fifth, a sauna. Six, any other suggestion. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each suggestion with your partner and try to reach agreement on the most suitable. Make other suggestion if you wish. And then next is tap tap recorded stimuli. As was noted earlier in the chapter, circumstances may dic- dictate that oral ability be tested in the language laboratory. A good source of techniques is the ARELS, Association of Recognized English Language Schools. Examination in spoken English and comprehension. This include describe situation. For example, you are walking through town one day and you meet two friends who you were sure had gone to live in the USA. What do you say? Remakes an isolation to respond to, for example. The candidate hears, I'm afraid I haven't managed to fix that cassette pairs of yours yet. Sorry. Or there's a good film on TV tonight. And last is imitation. Candidates hear a series of sentences, each of which they have to repeat in turn. This obviously does not in itself represent a cross section of the oral skills that we are usually looking for, but there is research evidence that, provided the sentence are not too short, see what was said about dictation in chapter 8. Learners will make the same kind of errors in performing this task as they will when speaking freely. And then next slide for the last technique not recommended. Technique not recommended. The first is prepare monologue. Some examination require candidates to present a monologue on a topic after being given a few minutes to prepare. If this text were to be carried out in the native language, there would almost certainly be considerable differences between candidates. For this reason, and because leaving the candidate alone to prepare a monologue must create stress, this technique is not recommended. And then the second, reading aloud. Again, there will be significant differences in native speaker performance and inevitable interference between the reading and the speaking skills. Okay, next Reza Maulana for the next material.
The next is the scoring. Based on the interview procedure of English language teaching, institutions such as ACT-FL, ALR, and FSI. This institute use 5 aspects of assessment, such as accent, grammar, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Next. And the next is accent. These following are the levels of in any aspect of assessment. Okay. The higher the score given, the higher level of English proficiency. The first level is pronunciation frequently intelligible. And the second level is frequent gross errors and a very heavy accent make understanding difficult. Require frequent repetition. The third level, foreign accent, requires concentrated listening and mispronunciation, leads to occasional misunderstanding and apparent errors in grammar or vocabulary. And the fourth mark level, marked foreign accent and occasional mispronunciation which do not interfere with understanding. And fifth, cons- no conspicuous mispronunciation, but would not be taken for a native speaker. And the sixth level, native pronunciation with no trace of foreign accent. Next is grammar. The first level of grammar is grammar almost entirely inaccurate phrases. The second level is constant error, showing control of very few major patterns and frequently preventing communication. And the third level, frequent errors showing some major patterns, uncontrolled and causing occasional irritation and misunderstanding. And the fourth level, occasional error showing imperfect control of some patterns but no weakness that cause misunderstanding. And the fifth level, few errors with no patterns of failure. The sixth level, no more than 2 errors during the interview. Next. Next is vocabulary. And in the first level, vocabulary inadequate for even the simplest conversation. And on the second level, vocabulary limited to basic personal and survival areas like time, food, transportation, family, etc. On the third level, choice of words sometimes inaccurate. Limitation of vocabulary prevent discussion of some common professional and social topics. On the fourth level, professional vocabulary adequate to discuss some special interest general. Vocabulary permits discussion of non any technical subject with some circumlocution. And the fifth level, professional vocabulary broad and precise, general vocabulary adequate to cope with complex practical problems and varied social situations. On the sixth level, vocabulary apparently as accurate and extensive as that of an educated native speaker. And the next is fluency. The first one of level fluency is speech is so halting and fragmentary that conversation is virtually impossible. And the second level is speech is very slow and even except for short or written sentences. Third level, speech is frequently hesitant and jerky. sentences may be left incomplete. Fourth level, speech is occasionally hesitant, with some unevenness caused by repressing and groping for words. Fifth level, speech is effortless and smooth, but perceptibly non-native in speech and evenness. Six, speech on all professional and general topic as effortless and smooth as a native speakers. And the last is comprehension. The first one level of comprehension is understands too little for the simplest type of conversation. The second one of level comprehension is understands only slow, very simple speech on common social and touristic topics, requires constant repetition and repressing. Third level, understand careful, somewhat simplified speech when engaged in dialogue, but may require considerable repetition and repressing. Fourth level, understands quiet, well normal educated speech when engaged in a dialogue, but requires occasional repetition or repressing. Fifth level, understand everything in normal educated conversation except for colloquial or low frequency item or exceptional rapid or slurred speech. And the sixth level, understands everything in both formal and colloquial speech to be expected of an educated. That's all from me, Bagas.
Okay, so that's from us. From our presentation, we discuss material about testing oral ability. I will present my friends in the group. If there are any wrong words or sentence in the presentation or making the video, please forgive us. Thank you for watching and listening. Big love from us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.